Well, a very good morning to you, Ayanda. You'll remember that at the beginning of Alert Level 3, Transport Minister Fikile Mbalula halted really the resumption of a passenger train, saying that they would need more time to actually prepare and make sure that everything that's put into the work is in accordance with the lockdown regulations and that people are protected. You'll remember that thousands use this train service because really it's affordable and it's accessible to a lot of people that really can't afford to go to taxis. But the downside of that is how overly populated they are. They are, most of the time you'll find people hanging out of these trains, and those were the concerns that were coming out from the general public initially, even before the lockdown, that they need to be shut. But opening them would then mean that they would need to ramp up all those efforts and make sure that people are protected. We saw Transport Minister yesterday, Fikile Mbalula, visiting some of the train stations. Like you mentioned there, they're opening 4 lines, and here in Gauteng, it's only 1 line that will be opened. It's between Pietersport and Pretoria. So he went to those 2 stations, really monitoring the situation there, the social distancing that has been put in place, some of the entrances that will be used. You'll also remember that, most of these platforms and these train stations see people entering illegally. So they're looking to implement things like platform marshals who will make sure that the people that are entering into the stations are screened, and they make sure that they are also, of course, sanitized. But Minister Mbalula there expressing his, uneasiness and concern around Gauteng, saying that at this particular point, Gauteng is headed to the worst, and it's really uneasy about opening around this time. But of course, the economy continues to open, and that more people need to get to work, and they can't really be clogged into taxis. So that is what necessitated this, resumption of operations today.
Right. So, Linda, in most instances, we've heard that aspects of the economy that are getting an opportunity to reopen again do so under strict conditions. What are some of those conditions, particularly for trains?
Well, what PRASA is looking at, in the presentation that they showed us yesterday, Ayanda, they said that they're looking to reduce the numbers. So they're selling a limited number of tickets, also making sure that the people that enter into perhaps coaches are limited, half the number that ordinarily they would have. So a coach, we're told, is able to take up to 250 people, but they will be taking around 42 people per coach, and that it will also be running on intervals. So in the morning it will run between at 6 a.m. until around 9 a.m. as well as 4 p.m. until 7 p.m. in the afternoon. So those are some of the measures that have been taken into account to make sure that there isn't really that overcrowding that we normally see in these train stations. Of course, that is also happening in provinces like the Western Cape and Cape Town, where those trains will be running from Cape Town to Simonstown, as well as in the Eastern Cape, in East London to Berlin, as well as Port Elizabeth to Uitenhage. So those are some of the measures that have been put in place, Ayanda.
Yeah, and Linda, of course, we know that this is coming amid ongoing concerns about how trains have been functioning in the country, infrastructure issues around the proper use of the trains. Train surfing, we know, is a subculture in some aspects in the country. Did the Transport Minister spend any time addressing some of those issues and how they might impact this gradual reopening of the sector?
Indeed, he actually did speak about issues around. He says there won't be omunye pes gobunye. You'll also remember there's a culture in trains. If you've used trains, pumanai and genanai, where basically people are pushing in and out of the trains. But he says that is a thing of the past and really needs to be monitored. Also, another concern for the minister is that they don't have figures as yet, but the issue of cable theft, Ayanda, came out sharply in the minister's statement yesterday. yesterday. He says that he's quite concerned because this is staggering the work that is being put into place by PRASA to make sure that everyone is up to speed and every station is up to speed with the COVID-19 regulations. So that cable theft is really impacting not only on the revenue collection but also on the resumption of these trains.
Thanks very much for getting us into the picture so well. Linda Mnisi, our reporter, live to us there from Pretoria, keeping a close eye on the gradual reopening of some of the trains in the country.